Hi everyone. I thought today that I'd do a very short review of a film I recently watched called Tyson the movie. And this was actually instigated by Truth Over Everything's video from about a year ago. And I really think that it's one of the best documentaries I've ever watched. It basically profiles the life of Mike Tyson, who in my opinion is the greatest boxer who ever lived. And there can be debate around that, but I think that he would give most of the all-time greats a run for their money and would probably beat them in a fantasy scenario. But regardless, the documentary really just splices together footage of his career and his fights, all of the knockouts that he had in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. And also intermingles that with footage from his obviously his incarceration for rape, more recent footage, and also interview footage that is really engaging and provides a real insight into his mindset and psyche. And it really does show what can be achieved. I mean, Truth spoke extensively about the role of a positive male role model in people's lives. When Mike was a kid, he really was obviously born into a family where his mum was sexually promiscuous. He didn't really, there was lots of kids by different parents, different fathers, I should say. He had obviously a lot of siblings, and they were born into a terrible environment that was just not, you could equate that to child abuse, really, what happened. And in his area where he grew up, it was obviously quite rough, and it would kill or be killed. And that the documentary follows his childhood and how he got, he was scared of fighting at first, and in that particular neighborhood in New York, you've really got to stand up and stand up to people that would try and impose their will on you. But obviously, it's quite ironic that he was scared of fighting in those early days. And that's quite astounding, considering that he would go on to become a true great. And eventually, with the incident with his pigeons, where some bullies basically ripped the head off one of his pigeons that he liked to race around, he flipped out, I would guess, and battered them. And that was the beginning. So he got in with the wrong crowd, people that were dealing drugs and robbing people, and eventually ended up in juvenile detention, and was in and out of there once or twice a month. And in that regard, he met a young Irish boxer who was I think he was an amateur at the time, who used to spar with him, and this Irish guy managed to wind Mike, punched him in the gut, and much to Mike's dismay, because Mike thought that he would be able to easily overpower him. And this obviously led to Mike saying, can you educate me? Can you teach me how to box? And of course, this guy was like, why should I waste my time on you? You've not really earned it. You're trouble. So, if you provide some evidence that you have got the right work ethic, then yeah, I'll invest that time. So he did. And here you have the roots being placed for Mike's development with positive male role models. From that, he invests all of his time and develops this passion, and he's in his early teens at this point. He then gets to meet Customato, who would eventually become his legal guardian and a key figure in his life. And it's easy to see in the documentary that, Mike was very emotional about Cuz, and he had a massive impact on his life. And it just shows what a positive male role model can achieve in someone's life, a man's life. So Cus took him under his wing and started educating him not just about boxing, of course, but also about discipline, how to conduct yourself, how to basically be a true man, something that he'd not had before, how to be responsible and how to look after himself. And there's a scene in particular where Mike gets very, very emotional. He can't really get his words out, where, you know, the realization that nobody would ever mess with him again, ever. And fast forward that to his success. You know, he starts destroying people through the amateur ranks. He wins a gold medal, I think, at the Junior Olympics. And then he obviously moves forward. Unfortunately, Cus passes away, which obviously was a massive, massive blow. And he really could have done with Cus sticking around for a bit longer, just as a guardian, just to help him along the way. But he then goes to decimate Trevor Berbick in the heavyweight title match and becomes heavyweight champion. And it has the documentary has a montage of his early fights, and actually his speed and power is something to behold. I mean, I'm watching it a couple of nights ago, and it's just incredible to watch. Just the hand speed, and you know, he doesn't look like a tall man, but he just gives off this aura of being bigger than he looks. You know, just like a rampaging rhinoceros in the ring. He's just absolute beast, and you can just see that power and hand speed when he's training with the bag. And it just made me wince a few times. I mean, I watch UFC from time to time. Got family members who are into all of that MMA and UFC type stuff, and that makes me wince quite a bit. But certainly, when Mike's, you know, knocking these people out and just destroying them, you're thinking, you know, if I was going to fight against him, you would be scared stiff. And I guess the reason why I've included this sort of review is that the documentary has a number of wider messages, red pill notions, in terms of obviously Mike's marriage to Robin Givens, who, you know, he admits in the film that he was too young for it, and they were both too young for it. But she obviously humiliated him on television, and he just sat there, and obviously knowing what he knows now, he could have come out with some, you know, maybe eloquent rebuttals to what she was saying, but he didn't, and just took it, and eventually they got divorced after only 8 months, and which cost him $10 million. And Truth, in his video, expressed his sentiments about how that money could have been invested wisely and given back to the community. Then, of course, Mike he likes to indulge in women, and he's got a lot of, if you watch the documentary, he does express blue pill notions of women taking care of him and how he wants a woman to protect him and this and that, and this is just, it's false. It's a false view. Mike then has a dark period in his life with I have no doubt that it's a false rape allegation. And if you just look at the evidence, it's completely, you know, one-sided. You know, it's her word against his, and I urge you to look into the background, but Mike does come across in this interview and most of the interviews that he's done as being a very honest guy and very self-critical and self-analytical. And I've got no reason to believe that he would have done that, given that as he was the most famous guy on the planet during those years, you know, he could have literally had sex on tap as and when he wanted it with any number of women. Why would he need to rape anybody? But again, I urge you to make up your own conclusions on that. Obviously, this episode and going to jail, his freedom was taken away, and this is all going to affect your confidence. Confidence that had to be built up in those early days with Cuz. And I think that his confidence in the world and those people around him and the leeches and people like Don King was just shattered irreparably. And I think moving forward, he's still trying to come to terms with a lot of things that happened in his life at the present day. But he's no doubt provided a lot of lessons. He's shown what can truly be achieved with the right coaching, with the right mentorship, and the application of will and mastery and passion for your pursuits. That's the key thing for me that I took away from this film. And then also the dangers of blue pill notions, and how important it is to educate yourself on sort of MGTOW concepts, and to be absolutely 100% tactful and use the utmost discretion in your dealings with the wrong kind of women. So again, I truly recommend you to... So this film gets a 5 out of 5 from me. I thoroughly recommend you check out Truth's original video that should be around somewhere. Those of you who've already seen it will understand the Mike Tyson Customato 10 lessons video. I do hope that one day Truth makes that available again. I've got no doubt that he will. But honestly, it's one of the best videos I've ever seen on YouTube, and that's saying something coming from me. It's a remarkable video. Do check out this documentary, and thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.